Hey guys. Okay, so when it comes to these weekly videos, I usually kind of just share my thoughts, and at the end I inevitably find myself saying the moral of the story or the point I want to get across in today's video is. In this week's video, I kind of want to flip things, and instead we're going to start with the end. So, the moral of the story, or the point I want to get across in today's video, is if you're doing a renovation or extension to a house, or building a new house, and if those proposed works require you to relocate or modify the crossover, then please ask the question up front, will this get approved? So will we be allowed to modify or move the driveway? Let me explain. So first thing we need to clarify is what is the crossover? The crossover is the portion of driveway that crosses over, funny that, the council verge. In super simple terms, it's the portion of driveway between the front property boundary and the curb, so the formed road sort of surface. Now, when it comes to these crossovers, you typically need to be between 500 and 600 mils, aka 50 centimeters and 60 centimeters, from most items in terms of infrastructure. So like stormwater pits, street poles, water meters, electricity boxes. I'm looking around for inspiration right now. You then need to be 1 meter from a power pole. You typically need to be 2 to 3 meters from a street tree. I say 2 to 3 because technically speaking, the standard application process only references 2 meters at the moment, but council is trying to enforce the 3 meter requirement. So we're going to see that change at some point. And then when it comes to things like bus stops, you need to be, I think it's between 10 and 14 meters, depending on whether you're hitting the approaching or exiting sort of section of the bus stop. Anyway, when I edit this video, I'll insert an image which shows you the exact dimensions that you need to be. Now, obviously, if you tick the boxes for these things, happy days, no questions asked, no issues, you go on your merry way. We find these days, at least once a week, we come across a site where someone wants to whack a driveway in and hence a crossover within those distances. So what happens in that situation? Well, basically, council's going to turn around and say, yeah, so you need to approach the asset owner and get their consent to go closer. So the asset owner being urban utilities, energetics, whoever actually is responsible for managing that infrastructure. Now, when you go to these guys, you're going to have to demonstrate that by having that driveway or that crossover closer to their infrastructure, you're not going to adversely impact on it and it'll create any additional risk. So let's look at power poles, for example, because I've got one directly in front of me right now. Basically, you've got to demonstrate that a mum who's got a screaming kid in the back of the car and is not really paying attention, or a learner driveway as they take that corner too quickly and get into the crossover and overstretch on the driveway, that they're not going to hit that power pole and cause issues for energetics. Or water meter. So again, same thing. As someone who's not really focused on what's happening because they've got distractions, if they go off, are they going to run over that water meter and cause it to crack and all of that sort of stuff? Now, back in the good old days, you used to be able to propose, especially when it came to like water meters, electrical pits, all of that sort of stuff, you used to be able to propose trafficable lids. So you basically say, hey, look, we'll pay extra money to use a more sturdy sort of structure here so we can drive over the top. Problem is, history has proven that they don't tend to last. Like, good in theory, but it doesn't necessarily work. And whether it's the client or the future owners down the track, inevitably someone's on the phone at Energex or whoever it is going, so you've got a cracked lid here, you need to come out and fix it. So obviously these service providers, they're like, why are we backing ourselves into a corner and causing ourselves headaches here? Let's just say no to the crossover permit in the first instance. So if they say no, you've obviously got to relocate your driveway or you've got to relocate the infrastructure. That is not an easy or quick or cheap process. So to throw some figures at you, typically when it comes to moving power poles, we see the cost come in around 20 grand. I did have one a few years back in Toowong, which was 150 grand because this thing had some huge infrastructure hanging off it in terms of a lot of lines and all that sort of stuff. When it comes to stormwater inlets, they typically, the bills I see come in around 20 grand. When it comes to like water meters and all of that sort of stuff, they're at least 10 grand these days. So it's a lot of money to fork out to move something that in the scheme of things is so small. But then also you've got to consider, where is it relocating to? So bus stops in particular, they need a massive distance before and after them, and no one wants a bus stop in front of their house. So if you can't fit it in front of your property, where's it going to go? You've got to demonstrate that there is a safer alternative location and that the person is willing to accept it out the front of the property. Good luck with that. So yeah, obviously bus stops are a little bit harder than say a street pole or something like that, but the moral, well, the point I'm trying to get across here is basically you got to work out where it's going to go, and it's got to be a safer, equally safe or safer location, and you got to foot the bill for it. So I think that covers off everything I wanted to talk through. Like I said at the beginning, just to recap, the moral of the story is One of the very first things that should be on your checklist when you're trying to do a renovation or a new build, if you're going to modify or relocate the driveway, is, is this actually going to be approved? Let's stand out the front. Let's work out, is there any infrastructure within those threshold distances? And if so, let's start the conversation with the service provider to work out, is there an opportunity to go closer? Odds are they'll say no, except in certain rare circumstances. So then you've got to weigh up, okay, is it better to relocate or redesign? Okay, that covers off everything I want to talk about today. As I always like to say, until next time, thanks for watching.
For all you red tape lovers out there, I have one thing to say. Well, no, actually, I've got three. Number one, the advice provided in these videos is general in nature. It's not site specific. You would be a silly Billy to go and make financial decisions based on this advice without first checking with the town planner. Don't be a silly Billy. Number two, Brisbane town planning is in no way linked to Brisbane City Council. The views expressed in these videos are my own, not council's. So if you don't like them, blame me, not council. Number three, what was my number three? Oh yeah, the views expressed in these videos are accurate at the time of recording. If you're watching this video back 10 years from now, the views may not be so accurate. That's all. Bye.